athletes turned therapists. Our focus in these episodes is to humanize the athlete experience beyond the lines of their arena. In this podcast, we will explore the whole athlete, highlighting the mental, emotional, and social aspects of their journey.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Millennium Counseling Center podcast. My name is Lyda Robinson, and I'm one of the interns here at Millennium. And I am here with the one, the only Sasa. What's up, girl?
Don't hype me up like that. Now I gotta show up. Good. What's up with you?
Nothing. We're just here. Today we are going to be talking a little bit about something I haven't talked about in a very long time, and I really didn't think about it until you brought it up. You're like, hey, let's do, anybody want to do it on this? I'm like, yeah. So today we're going to be talking about some of our favorite athletes growing up, and I'm excited for this one.
Me too, yeah.
No, this is a fun one. I have a couple on my mind. You had a couple too. We were kind of talking about it before, but yeah, I mean, if you're interested to hear about, everybody has their little childhood crush or whatever it may be, or someone you looked up to. And yeah, so why don't you take it away?
Yeah, I mean, so I grew up playing soccer, so I feel like majority of the athletes I grew up like looking up to were all soccer players. And I know that we were joking how you're like, you got to explain some of the soccer players.
Yeah, because I do not have a background in soccer, unfortunately. But yeah, so let me know who are these people that...
I mean, growing up, so like my family was definitely a soccer household, and like my older brothers, they would watch like the different leagues and keep up with different teams and stuff like that. So I feel like I just like by proxy had to follow in a way. But
did you like soccer when you was it something you naturally gravitated to?
Oh, totally. Like, side note, funny story of like my mom put me in dance like when I was like 3 to 6 or something like that. And I remember starting like kindergarten or whatever it was. And my mom was like, do you want us to do dance again? I said no. But knowing ultimately that soccer was coming up, I wanted to play soccer. So I said no to dance. And then I jokingly was like, I need to go to school. Like I can't do dance at the same time. But then soccer came around and I was like, I want to do soccer. Like that was kind of that thing.
Yeah.
But, with the players, like a lot of them were like, especially like the Italians men's team, like especially like 2006, like I don't know how like that is such I definitely do know how it was such a prominent memory. It was when Italy won the 2006 World Cup.
And you were 6 at the time,
I was
right?
6 years old at the time. And like, I just remember watching the final, going out to like penalty shootouts against France. And like, we're in our family friend's basement and we're all like on edge watching it. And like, I remember like my favorite player was Francesco Totti, and he was a striker on the field, which to kind of put it in like a little bit more simpler terms is like he was a forward. So he was at the top of kind of the lineup, I guess you could say, and it was more so on the offensive side of things. And he was my favorite. And like growing up, I like use aspects of the way he played in the way I played, because watching him so often or whatnot. And like already told you the story, but I'll tell the pod the story of like, I remember it had to have been December of 2006, that Christmas, where my parents got me and my older brothers our like favorite player on the Italian team's jersey for Christmas. And like
the whole fam.
Yeah, the whole fam rolling up in Italian jerseys. Like mine was Francesco Totti, my oldest brother was Luca Toni, and then my other brother was Gigi Buffon, the goalkeeper.
Okay, and these were all on the same team, correct? Yeah.
Same team. Yeah. They were on the 2006 World Cup team.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and like I like joked with you already, but I was like, we wore those jerseys for years and years to like the number and the back of the name of like their last name peeled off the shirt.
That's a diehard family.
It was a diehard Italian soccer family. But what about you? I know you have more of the softball background stuff.
Yeah. So, no, that's really cool. I like that you guys had the family tradition to kind of... Did you guys ever buy jerseys after that, or was it kind of like that year? You're still... Okay.
I'll get into after you, but like in the USA women's team, like definitely them, like a handful of those players too, definitely looked up into.
Wow. Yeah, so mine's obviously a little different because I grew up playing softball my entire life. And if you know, you know, when I was a kid, believe it or not, contrary to popular belief, we didn't have a lot of social media. I mean, I don't remember getting a phone till I was about 11 or 12, and it was like a slide flip phone. So I wasn't really able to see a lot of what was going on in the softball world unless it was like, I don't know, unless it was like talked about within family or friends or maybe on TV, like watching like ESPN. But even then, like games weren't really put on TV a lot. And so I remember the only person that really was a huge name in softball was Jenny Finch. And I kind of put a little bit of her stats and stuff down, but I really want to talk more about how, when I was a kid, she was the only person I could really look up to in the world of softball because she was the biggest name. I mean, she had a glove brand, and I think if I remember correctly, I had the Jenny Finch pink glove with like the pink outline. It was black and pink, and I really wasn't a pink person at the time, and now I love pink. But I loved Jenny Finch, and I wanted all of her stuff. I remember she had these headbands. She'd go to these like tournaments, and you were always hoping she'd be at your like tournament to like talk to the players or whatever. But she was just a really distinct person that I remember growing up, seeing and hearing. And she was really successful at Arizona. I think it was her last year playing. She was at the Women's College World Series. She had a 7-2 record, 70 strikeouts, 3 shutouts. And the funny thing about this is like she's a pitcher. The funny thing about the two people that I really love is that they both played completely different positions as me.
Oh, okay.
I did not play. I pitched a little bit when I was a kid, but then I moved to like catching and then shortstop. And then in college, I played outfield. So it was really interesting to me to see that like I really liked these people. And the next person that I want to talk about that as I got older, I started to admire was Rachel Garcia, who played at UCLA.
Okay.
And the reason I liked her so much is, for one, she was a freaking monster. She could hit, she could pitch. She was like a double, like she was a double threat. And she was so good. And the reason that you could talk about the stats, you can talk about the national championship she's won, but I think the one thing I really liked about her that was completely opposite of me, and I kind of tried taking in a little bit, especially maybe my last 2 years playing, was how calm she played. You knew when she walked up to that mound, like she was serious and she was ready to play. I was a pretty serious player. So, I mean, I had our, RBF and whatever, but I think what stood out to me about her is just her calm demeanor that she had when she played, and she meant business. Like, she was that girl. She was that good, and everybody was like, they did not want to play UCLA at the time because she was so good at what she did. Imagine having a pitcher who, she compiled 66 career complete games, 28 shutouts, finished her career with 996 strikeouts in 749 innings, and also posted a .337 batting average at the plate with 217 hits, including 43 home runs.
She strikes you out and then goes up to bat.
It's like, how do you beat her? And so I think I had that monster mentality when I played, and I was a slapper lefty of like, nobody is going to beat me. And I think she had that mentality. Is like, she didn't want anybody to beat her. And so I just loved her. She also had the same number as me. So 00. If you're a 00 people, that's where it's at. But yeah, I think I just really appreciated her mentality playing and her calm demeanor because she led the team in so many other ways than just her pitching and her hitting. So it was really cool to see. But yeah, it's interesting that we both differ of like, you kind of like the people that play the same position as you. You saw that. You saw yourself as them in games. And I kind of thought more of like, obviously Jenny Finch growing up. But with Rachel, it was just the way that she played. I loved like the way she carried herself was what was really important to me when I watched her.
Yeah, I feel like that gives different perspectives of like, even when you're like a little kid, like looking up to athletes, like, whether it's the same number, like you said, or whether it's the same position you play in your sport, and mimicking aspects within the way they play into how you play, or even just like going down to their mentality, or like, well, now social media, like you see a little bit more of the athlete outside of being an athlete.
Their character of who they are outside of it. Yeah.
And I feel like especially now today with social media, like kids can look up to different athletes, whether it's in their sport or not, and seeing athletes' character and demeanor, or like even just their personality. Like a big personality in sport now is Iona Mar.
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce that? And like, she's
a badass. Part of my friend.
She's like such a personality, but she's also such a great athlete on top of that. And like, I don't know anything about rugby, to be honest, but I know rugby now because of her. Yeah. And also just like her as a person, like being the personality that she is in the different kind of outlets outside of rugby that she does.
And yeah, that's funny because like that's a name that I know in women's sports. And I think the one thing too that people love about her is her confidence, and that stereotypically a woman like her, strong, like she's strong.
Yeah.
Like she is a monster on the field. And when I say monster, I mean like she just is good at what she does. She doesn't take any crap from anybody. And I remember watching an interview with her and they were like, how do you deal with imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't have imposter syndrome. I worked for what I had and I'm proud of where I've come and I'm reaping the positive consequences of what I worked hard for. And so I took that and I was like, how do you do that? You know, how do you instill that confidence? And, you know, yeah, like people like her are just so inspiring for little girls everywhere who may be a little bit on the stronger side and have broader shoulders or bigger legs. And you saw her on Dancing with the Stars. She was just such an incredible, talented athlete that could do so much for someone who stereotypically does not look like an average, what you would consider like feminine or, you know, a female athlete. Like she is just a really cool person. And I love that her confidence just like oozes out of her all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like a good point to kind of connect that of like the things outside of sport that athletes can, you know, share a message to like younger athletes or just anyone in general, like the USA Women's Soccer League, which I also grew up watching and got really into. And for like a time, like when I was younger playing soccer, like from like 2010 to, you know, still now watching them and keeping up too, is kind of their message of like, you know, this is what we're doing. We're putting up the numbers and like the wins and all this. And, you know, the message of, you know, equal pay and stuff like that. And like even, you know, within the WNBA, like stuff like that too. Like so much changing and evolving within women's sports.
Yeah.
And like the messages being sent that way, you know, it's definitely a big attribute is the social media aspect and people following them and, you know, even just acknowledging women's sports more too. So like, yeah, like Alex Morgan and Kelly O'Hara, Carly Lloyd, like watching them and, you know, kind of what you were saying before, like, you know, some of them were in the same kind of soccer position that I was in, but, you know, watching them play and, you know, learning how they saw the game and me trying to learn the game in the same way that they're learning it definitely helped me in the way I was a, you know, soccer player. And just like overall, whether the athlete part or even the messages outside of sport, like looking up to them in that way.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I like that the world of sports is becoming so much more than like them playing. Because, I mean, there's so many athletes that are bench players or aren't the best, but they still have little fans and little people that look up to them because there's little girls and guys that are on the same boat as a lot of these athletes. I mean, look at like, think about, you know, Iowa basketball and Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I liked watching the most out of all of that is the way that her teammates supported her throughout the whole thing. Like they were just so they just loved that she was doing what she was doing. And a lot of them didn't play, you know, most of their years. So also those type of people that, you know, you see on the bench or you see like, gosh, I wish I knew. I wish I remembered the story, like the people specifically, but there was a World Series game that also happened where it was a pinch hitter for a slapper. And she didn't play a lot, but what was crazy about it and what stood out to me the most is that the girl that got taken out, she was the biggest cheerleader and the biggest supporter for this person. And she ended up winning. She ended up hitting a walk-off grand slam, I think it was, because it was bases loaded. And they won either the first game of the Women's College World Series or like the second. And I think they were like they ended up having to play a third game. But it's just cool to also see that like inspirational people don't have to be the ones that are playing. They can also be the ones that are doing a lot of the background stuff and the supportive role. And I always saw that within like my teammates too. Like I appreciated the ones that picked me up and, you know, were supporting me even if they weren't playing as much. And I'll never forget like their support and kindness towards me when I played. So, I mean, that was a little off topic, but yeah, I mean, overall, I think that it's, you know, actions speak a lot louder than words. And I think it's cool to see that a lot of these players are starting to incorporate a lot of, you know, charity work and stuff like that too within being these big, huge celebrities. And it's cool to see. It's cool to see how they use their athleticism and their talent for good, which is cool.
Yeah, like, to kind of wrap it up a little bit, like, I think to sum up what you said, like, kids looking up to athletes, whether it is about the athlete that they are, whether they connect with them, whether it's the same position that they play, or it's the same number, or their demeanor, or their messages on and off the field, I think, are such big things for young athletes. And, definitely having that outlook of like looking forward of where these people got to that point, being professional or playing in college or wherever it may be, having that role model to kind of look up to, and whether, no matter what you take away from it, it motivates you and, plays little aspects in you as the athlete that you are.
We experience that ourselves. Like, we have these people that we looked up to that either we admire the way they played or you saw yourself within them. Like, some people don't realize how there are little eyes watching you. So be careful of how you represent yourself and what that means, and your morals too. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that people like Jenny Finch and Rachel Garcia will be names that we'll remember forever, along with your players too. It's pretty cool to see how people kind of change our perspective on things, for sure.
Totally, yeah.
But yeah. Well, Sasa, it was a pleasure. We hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. And don't forget to follow us on social media, MCC Athlete Wellness. You can follow me and Sasa. I believe mine's Lyda Millennium and Sasa's is Sasa Millennium.
Alessandra Millennium. Yeah, I had to go with the government name.
The government name. Alessandra Millennium on Instagram. And we will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching or listening. Bye.